Hey, hello and welcome to our 20th episode of the Collective Spotlight, where we have a very, very special guest. I like to think that all of our guests are huge gets and all of our guests are super talented, but we have the uber talented uh, Kari Andrews with us, who he's worked. You guys know his name from a lot of covers. He's probably done tons of covers that are in your collection, probably on your wall. His art's beautiful, but he is writing and drawing a book for AWA Upshot, E-Ratic, and he's here with us today to talk about it. How are you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. So, I don't even know where to start. You've been, you've been in the comic industry for a while. So, let's talk about some of your influences, man. What got you to want to start writing comics?
Well, I have a weird and strange career so far. When I was a kid, I loved comic books, I loved movies, I loved toys, I loved model making, movie magic, all photography, all sorts of stuff. And I didn't really think of them as different things. It was like the world eventually starts telling you these are different things. And if you want to try to do one of them, well, maybe you can do one of them. And so you better choose. And so I kind of succumbed to the pressures of the world in my teenage years and decided to focus on comic books. And I broke into comic books as a penciler. But I was always writing and always painting and doing all kinds of stuff. So I immediately both started to ink, color, and write my own work, but then also expand outwards and concurrently build up separate things in my life, like I do a little bit of directing too. So I've kind of reclaimed my own path, and as much as the world, especially today, likes to cut you up and tell you can just be one thing, I think it's just not true. And so in comic books, as a microcosm of my worldview, I tend to do a lot of different things. So I'll do a lot of covers. When I do covers, I'll sometimes I was one of the first guys to digitally paint in the industry, which was fun. And it was something not many people could do at all for a while, but now everyone digitally paints.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you started a trend.
I didn't start the trend, but you could say I was on the leading edge of a trend, probably. But it was only because I wanted to oil paint and I couldn't afford oil paints as a young punk. And I had a tablet, and that tablet came with some free software, and I started making like oil painty type covers. But these days I'm like, I do a lot of fun covers where I'm like, sometimes I do all kinds of styles, but I'm doing like 80s style airbrush covers, which is like that, like, that's so much fun because no one even has that gear anymore. So it's like, I just really like to zig when the world is zagging. So I'll oil paint covers, watercolor covers, acrylic paint covers, digitally paint covers, photography based covers, airbrush covers, like, I just like to do new things all the time. And sometimes it's interiors, sometimes it's covers, sometimes it's writing, sometimes it's art, sometimes it's all three. Just a mix.
I was just gonna say, so like for you, to Erratic, you're writing, you are penciling, and then you did the cover. So what is that schedule like for you when you're doing all three of those pieces?
Well, I mean, I've done other projects where I pencil, ink, color, and write end covers before, and I wanted for Erratic, for this time out, I want to take a step back because you only have so much time in the day, and sometimes, like, there's a reason why Frank Miller got kind of messier in his later years, because it's like you have to get the pages done. Like, no one cares if you do all the things if you can't get your pages done. So you can only allocate so much time to each thing. And so I invited a friend, Brian Reber, to color the book, and he agreed, thankfully. He's a great colorist. And then I redirected some of that energy into trying some new background techniques I haven't done before. But basically my schedule is, I'm very like, if you took a personality test, my openness is like way high, meaning I'm very comfortable in the chaos. And my conscientiousness, which is your organizational skills, are very low. So it makes you a good artist, but the challenge then is like how do you hit those deadlines when you're that personality? And what I've found works best for me is I just make sure to start the day with whatever's the priority. So when it's erratic, it's erratic, and I start my day with erratic, and I just push as hard as I can until I burn myself out, and then I'll often jump to some other side thing and then jump back to erratic. So it's just kind of like make sure you're always creating. Like when you burn yourself out of drawing figures, maybe you can draw panels. You know, you just kind of always have to be pushing that ball up the hill, up the mountain.
So one of the things that you also worked on very early in your career that you had a lot of hands in the different parts of it was, I have it right here, which was the Iron Fist living weapon.
That's right. Yeah.
And that was, that was a big deal for Iron Fist fans as well, because you were bringing back a character that hadn't really been in the mainstream for a while. What was it like getting to write a big character like that for a big publisher?
Oh, it was cool. I mean, at that time I'd actually already been working at Marvel for probably a decade, and for me, the bigger break of being able to write and draw characters was my first writing job ever at Marvel. Was I wrote and drew an issue of Spider-Man Tangled Web, and I wrote and drew and created the Marvel Mangaverse version of Spider-Man. So for me, those are the big milestones, because Spider-Man has always been my favorite of the characters. I think when I broke into Marvel, I was his exact same height, weight, age. You know, I always felt like and his powers lend himself to me as kind of like a more of a gymnastic-y based, thinner. He's not the Hulk, he's not even Captain America. He's just kind of a spry young punk who's constantly falling on his own face, but constantly trying to help people, but not always succeeding. So for me, that made my dreams come true, and that was very early in my career. And then Iron Fist was a great opportunity to kind of discover Iron Fist, because I'd always known about him. But I had, by that time, I had done a bunch of Iron Fist covers. Even I worked on the character. I enjoyed the Brubaker faction run, the Aja run, but I had not been exposed to the very early issues of Iron Fist, and I'm a huge martial arts fan. And once I was exposed to the early stuff, where it was a little more martial arts archetypal storytelling.
Yeah.
That was like, oh, I got to do this. Like that sounds like a lot of fun. So I redirected my artistic energy and my martial arts interests into that book. So it's pretty fun to do. But that was the first time I had penciled, inked, colored, and did covers for a monthly book. And I did 10 issues or something like that, two trades.
Well, yeah, they ended up doing, it was 2 trades, because it ended up the complete collection is like the big thicker one. So yeah. And Iron Fist is one of those characters that I think the fans of him love when he comes around, because he's not in books all the time, So I think that was a fun little thing for you to get to work on.
Yeah, when I did him, he hadn't had a book in 8 years, I believe.
Exactly. So it's always usually that writer that gets challenged with that. The fans are looking at you when you get a task like that.
Yeah, I mean, every time you do a character, it's always interesting, because everyone has their own idea of like what that character is. And it's kind of your job as a creator to, I always think it's my job to find out what the core of that character is. Like not necessarily what the trend is, but what the core is. And I always look back to those earlier adventures. And for Iron Fist, what I really latched onto was this idea that he trained his whole life for revenge in this secret society, and then was offered actually immortality if he could let go of vengeance. And I thought it fascinating that he couldn't. And so he went to Earth to get his revenge. And then, as every good revenge tale re-explores, it's a blade that cuts 2 ways. It's not. There are never good consequences for revenge, and it's such an archetypal martial arts storyline. And I love that in that first storyline, by the time he finds the guy that he wants to murder in vengeance, he's already basically dead. He's just kind of this, he's in wheelchair bound, crazy kind of old guy who just, there would be no satisfaction in that. So he gives it up, and then he starts to ask himself what it's all about. Now that he spent his entire life training for one thing, and it was inherently a false destination. I like that. I like that stuff a lot.
It's very grounded, and I think people like to see that every once in a while, because I mean, some of us would, with that question, I think we would also not be able to give that up. While it seems like easy for some, I think others would struggle with it.
Yeah, and that's why I believe there's such a core storyline is one of vengeance. Like we get behind those stories, we watch these stories, we constantly make those stories, and we re-explore those stories because it's such a human desire to feel wronged and want to hurt people in return. And it's such a human experience that is when when you go for vengeance, you dig two graves. You bury yourself along in that path. You either pull yourself up. That's why I called my the two trades I titled for Iron Fist, I titled Rage and Redemption, because it's like, for me, it's like there needs to be the second half of a complete revenge tale has to be one of redemption, not retribution. Yep.
So, and that's awesome. It's great to get inside the mind of a writer like that, because that's like us as readers think that, but it's awesome to hear the writers, kind of.
Well, you try, right? You try. That's what you're trying. That's what you put in your tank when you head out on the highway, and you don't always get there. Sometimes it just all explodes in your face, and it's just a hot mess. But, you try.
So you mentioned a little bit of Spider-Man, and I'm gonna just like gloss over this real quick because I just have to ask while I have you here. So you were the first when you did Spider-Man Reign. You were the first person in big time comics to have a superhero's genitalia, on there. This happened, and I'm sure that the internet at that time, that was almost nothing, made a big deal about it. It's still kind of a big deal. What was that like in the moment? Because nowadays we had Batman Damned in, a couple years ago, and that was this big thing on whether it should be censored or this or that. And what was that like?
My buddy Lee Bermejo stepped into the ring and threw down his gauntlet or his underwear, however you want to put it.
But like, I just want to know, what's that like going through in the moment? Because I'm sure when you write that script or when you do that, you're not thinking of this stuff clearly.
Well, here's what I'll say is when I was a kid, I don't know how old I was, like 10 or 12 or something like that, pretty young. I had just discovered comic book shops, and was blowing my mind that there was places that just only sold comic books. And it was just like so amazing to me. And I stumbled across a Daredevil hardcover called Electra Reborn. I think I always forget the name, but the Frank Miller European style Daredevil Electra comic book hardcover. And actually, in that book, Frank Miller draws Matt Murdock's baton, like just there. And as a kid, it was so shocking to see a genitalia in a superhero comic book, but it wasn't done as a erotic.
Exactly.
It was just kind of there, and it was there as kind of I think just to kind of stake a ground in like, this is an adult European style book, because in Europe, a little more always traditionally more open about nudity, etc. So when I was doing Spider-Man Reign, I knew that was the tone I wanted. I wanted an adult book for adults that kids shouldn't read necessarily. They did read it. I wanted them to have that same reaction I had of like, it was actually one of like wonder. It made me so engaged in the story because it instantly felt taboo, and it instantly felt like secret knowledge, and it instantly felt like, what's going to happen next? If you can draw Matt Murdock naked with his baton swinging around, what's going to happen on page 13?
Yeah. What else can you do? Like,
So with Reign, I deliberately did a similar thing where I drew old man Peter Parker, depressed, sitting on his bed, and I drew his little Petey.
Little Peter is what a lot of people.
Yeah. Knowing that, hey, it'll probably get kicked back by editorial, but if it doesn't, great. It's my reinvestigation of that kind of storytelling, and it did get kicked back. And I did draw a different version of that page, a patch. And then in the rush to get it out, the assistant editor at the time, who I feel very sorry for, he put the original page into the book instead of the fix. And so by accident, by happenstance, my initial intention was was alive, and it made it to the shops, and it caused a little bit of controversy, and it gave my book a little bit of press, and it was I hadn't done anything wrong because I'd actually done the fix, and I felt bad for him because
I can imagine you surprised when you got your comps or the first time you see it, because you're expecting it to have been changed, and then you see it there on the page, and you're like, "What happened?"
Well, I mean, they had that Marvel asked all the books to pulp that issue, and they sent them new replacement copies in its place. And I feel bad because that assistant editor almost got fired apparently.
Oh, I mean, I can imagine, but that's some awesome insight to that story, because I mean, everybody knows, now of Key Collector and eBay, everybody knows of that book. It's either the Little Peter issue or something like that. But it's nice to get some insight on that.
Yeah, no, but that book, I still I mean, it's been almost 20 years, that book, and I still read new articles about that story every few months. Like the one just came out like 2 weeks ago. I could pull it up right now. It's fast. I just stumbled across it. It's both on the Amazon UK and Amazon USA Marvel Top 100 lists now. Like right now. It's been out of print for years. You can only, I think these are Kindle sales. It must be Kindle sales, but
yeah.
I find it so fascinating that book has survived the time. And I know there's some controversy, right? There's some like, oh my God, I can't believe you killed Mary Jane in such a crazy way, which is a bit misunderstood, a bit misplaced, but whatever. I think I'll take it all, man. If there's one thing you want to do with these characters that you love is like leave a mark. And I believe with Spider-Man Reign, I pushed things hard. And I left a mark that didn't betray the character. It may have made some people uncomfortable, apparently. Yeah. Some people not. Some people love it. For some people, I've had both responses where people told me it's like.
I mean, there's people that love the character of Spider-Man, that love that arc, that story. Yeah, so
and there's the opposite, But it's like I really tried to, like, with that character, honor that initial. I really believe in reinvestigating in the core of the character. For Spider-Man, it's always been with great power comes great responsibility. And with Spider-Man Reign, I was so focused on how would I make Peter Parker believe he had no power? And when he has no power, does he give up his responsibilities? That's what I was really.
Yeah. That dilemma.
Yeah. And what more powerful way to make someone feel powerless than to not only be unable to save the woman they love, but to be ultimately responsible for their death. And so for me, that was the story. Like that was the thing I wanted to play with. And so I just, went from there.
That's awesome. And I'm going to talk about if Spider-Man or how much Spider-Man may have influenced E-Ratic, but we do have a question in the chat, and it mentions, your filmmaking background. You mentioned you've been directing. I want to say you directed your first IMDb credit, at least, is 2010. You did a film, and then you've released something just recently too, I believe, right?
Yeah, the first thing I ever directed professionally. What happened was once I started, I broke into Marvel. Mm-hmm. I moved to Vancouver up here in Canada, and I just bought some film gear and just started like directing shorts, self-generated shorts. Awesome. And separately built up a directing career. So my first job, I actually directed a TV pilot for the Cartoon Network that never aired, wasn't picked up. It was a superhero kid TV show.
Oh, what? This sounds awesome.
Yeah. Unseen, undiscovered, but that was my first professional job. But I was more focused on film at the time, and so I didn't chase the film stuff. I didn't chase the TV stuff. I chased the film stuff instead, and ended up directing a few films. The first film I did was a movie called Altitude about a bunch of kids kind of trapped in a plane in a storm. Mm-hmm. And then I did a few films. I did a Cabin Fever movie. Yes. I did ABCs of Death. And then I started to really found myself watching more television. So I started to investigate television a little more and started working in television. And I did V-Wars for Netflix. I did Van Helsing for Sci-Fi Aftermath. Bunch of shows like that. And then my latest directorial effort was I directed Sniper Assassin's End.
Yes.
And that came out this summer. It's technically the 8th installment of the Sniper franchise, which started when I was in high school.
That is in the Sniper franchise from way back when?
Tom Berenger, Billy Zane, you bet. This is the latest installment. And it actually hit number 1 on US iTunes charts in August, I believe.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations.
Yeah, it was fun. But it's fun, man. It was just, it's kind of a quick movie, but it's kind of movies I grew up watching, these kind of action movies. And we shot it. We only had 18 days to shoot it, and we shot it here in Vancouver. And just threw down and really, Iron Fist crossover. I had the choreographer from the first Iron Fist movie, Brett Chan. He was helping me choreograph fights for a sniper.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's crazy how, first of all, you're clearly a Renaissance man, but it's crazy how the worlds collide. Like, how things come full circle sometimes, right?
Yeah, I'm constantly amazed at how small the world is and how many different people I've met that, I don't know, somehow it just all constantly feels like a simulation. It constantly feels like,
I can't argue with you, man. I literally used to be a customer here like 5 years ago when the store opened, and look at me now. I'm like hosting a TV show here in the back room. So,
question. I opened up the comments. I've done the stream a couple times. So what's different to work in them? Here's what I say: it's like comics and directing is like the difference between being a fireman and a policeman. They're actually completely different jobs that there's a bit of overlap. So it's both like visual storytelling, and there's a lot of this. I use a lot of the same art muscles when I do it, but the methodology of doing it is completely different. Like with film, you're working with 100 people every day, and every day is a collaboration and a compromise, and you're dealing with budgets and actors and locations. And comics, it's like you in a room by yourself, and and then you're dealing with like your budget of time. Like, how much time can I spend on this page? Can I spend 2 days on this page and try to go less than a day on another page to make up the time to do a monthly comic? It's like, that's the big difference, is what you focus on.
Is there and to add on to that a little bit, when you write a script as a comic writer, you're kind of breaking it down by panels. And I know when a storyboard is done for a movie, it's kind of done somewhat like panels. Is there a similarity to writing a comic as to trying to write a script, or does that really go out the window and we're just kind of imagining too much into it?
Well, there is some similarity, and I think there can be more similarity if you work that way. So you can write a comic book like you may write a TV show, but that's a certain style of comic book storytelling. Like, for instance, like a Bendis book is very much like a TV style.
Okay.
But like, you wouldn't necessarily do like, let's say traditional like Stan Lee, Jack Kirby book probably wouldn't translate as well to like,
okay,
TV side. But here's what's interesting is that in the past, films used to be the big show, and TV was kind of like just the cheap thing.
Mm-hmm.
But often, like, oh, we'll take the big movie and turn it into a cheap show and just kind of, sell some cereal and some vacuum cleaners. And what happened was that the people discovered that the amount of material you have to generate to make a TV show could last years. And so if you have a good writing team and good actors and good directors, you can really create in-depth character work with like very complicated plotting in a way that's very similar to monthly comic books.
Yeah.
So what does it do to film? Well, it actually, you could make the argument that, TV has shown it can outcompete film. But what it's actually done, I believe, is it's opened up a new space for film. Like if you look at George Miller's Mad Max film, his latest film, the plot is almost non-existent. A thing here and a thing there, and the characters are like almost non-existent. But it's so powerful because it's no longer constrained by plot, and it's no longer constrained by characters. So in a way, that George Miller Mad Max movie, I think, is closer to like a Jack Kirby comic book.
Oh, okay.
And I think that like a Bendis comic book is closer to like a ER or the Y or something.
Okay. I like that comparison. So I just realized we've spent like 20 minutes talking about you, because you're the most interesting man in the world, apparently. But you do have the book, E-Ratic. Tell me a little bit about the book, and actually, I'm just going to let you tell the people a little bit about E-Ratic. Tell us a little bit besides the fact that I think everybody knows that he gets about 10 minutes a day to be a superhero.
Yeah, well, I always found it so stressing when I was out, like especially traveling for work or whatever. And I use my cell phone as a map. So if you're driving around and your battery is low and you can't charge it up, it's so stressful to like, can I get to the place I want to go before my phone goes out? Or like, I'm waiting for a call from someone, or I'm looking for an email and my phone's almost dead. Like, it's such a stressful situation. So I thought that'd be fun to put those limitations onto a superhero. So like they only have like a really crappy cell phone battery, 10-minute output, and then it's a 24-hour recharge cycle. And I thought that'd be fun. But I was also very interested. I think I'm always looking for the zig when the world is zagging. And so I think there was a time when archetypal superheroes were the thing that people were doing. And then people started investigating other things, and the Walking Dead's, the whatever, there's like, that mass started to drift away. And so the archetypal superhero storytelling, I think, is the underserved pocket. The thing that it's the 80s airbrush style cover that I'm so interested in doing right now, while the world is doing digital cover work, right? So it's like, I put out in the world, I wanted like an animal-based archetypal superhero, teenage superhero. Something that my kids could wear as pajamas, something I could wear as a t-shirt, something you could do as toys, but like one that was just like straight superhero storytelling, but in our modern world, which is a different world than it was, in a world that is, I don't believe it's rarely portrayed in the way it is. So we see the modern world a lot is some kind of generic, like, I don't even know what it is when I see a movie. It's not my world. So I was really like putting like
about that a little bit. You in the very first issue, or in the very like first page, second page roughly, the kid's getting picked on, and like a lot of books don't focus on that anymore because it's bad. We don't want any of our kids getting bullied. We don't want that. But it seems like you're making him very relatable. There's a new character on the scene, and you're making him very relatable to these kids.
Yeah. Well, I think also like it's no accident that Clark Kent was bullied and pushed around and seen by the world as weak. It's no accident that Peter Parker was bullied, pushed around, seen by the world as weak. Both characters become amazing superheroes as almost separate people to then do amazing things, while the world is looking at them as weak and pathetic weenies. And I actually think there's such a value in that archetype. In a world where there's so much pressure for you to be amazing and exceptional and get your likes and your retweets and all that stuff that means nothing, but there's so much social pressure driven by social media companies trying to make you just generate content for them to sell. Mm-hmm. And the things you do in the world are almost meaningless. Like, I think it's so bad for people. It's such a bad representation of life. And I think, why are superheroes archetypally represented as secret identities and heroics? It's because it's a much healthier way to live. Like, I don't think it's healthy for you to get the praise. I think it's healthy for you to be seen as not good enough, maybe even belittled, but know that what you do is important, and how you treat people are important, and have that be recognized and uplifted regardless of the stuff you have to go through. And almost there's a lot of value in being bullied. There's a lot of value in being put down, a lot of value in being pushed down by society. And that creates, I think, in people a desire to help others, but not be rewarded for it. Like, for me, I learned how to life from reading comic books. Like, to me, that's a valuable lesson. And in today's world, it's like, why Peter Parker would not have a secret identity. In today's world, why isn't Peter Parker just being like, "Hey, I'm Spider-Man," which he does in the movie? Yeah. Because there's no cost, right? There's no cost. And in fact, it would be, if you were Peter Parker in today's world, you should go on social media. You should try to get people to vote and try to do all these things as Peter Parker, the amazing kid that can do amazing things. I don't know. I think we've kind of lost the need for secret identities. And what I loved best about this world that Straczynski set up was that there became a reason for secret identities to exist, and there became a cost for my character Oliver. If he was discovered to be erratic, there's actually a real cost to it. So he has to protect his family and the ones he loved in a way that I think is both valuable socially, but also the way I love those stories. I love seeing someone who not be celebrated for who they are, but like celebrated for what they do. They're almost separate people.
Yeah, and gosh, man, you're such a passionate comic creator. Like it's crazy. It's actually awesome interviewing you. You do my job almost for me. But talk to me. You're getting to create, or you're getting to work on a new character. You've worked on Iron Fist, and we talked about what it was like to bring a character back, from not being in comics in 8 years. And you worked on Spider-Man, which is a lot of people's childhood favorite character. You're now getting to work on a character that hopefully, years from now, people are talking about to their little brothers and stuff like that. What's that like? And is this is kind of the first time you've gotten to do that on a big scale like this?
Well, even when you're doing like a bigger character like Spider-Man or whatever, you always want the dream is to leave your mark into like you want to play with those toys in a way that people remember. So you take your swing at bat, you want to get your big home run, grand slam home run, and be remembered as that guy that did that, because you don't own the characters. And in many ways, I mean, I have some ownership of E-Ratic, but I don't. It's an AWA book. It's not necessarily, and it's in many ways, I'm treating that character as the same thing, where it's like at the end of the day, it's not. I am setting in motion my swing at bat, and in a perfect world, that character will be recreated and re-energized by a series of amazing, talented people. Like I would love that. I would love if like just the hottest, newest, or the best vets or whoever each took their swing at E-Ratic. I think I like that idea. I want to do that with this character. He was created to do that thing.
Yeah. So you would love to see this be treated like, I hate to make the comparison, but like Spider-Man, where gosh, it gets written for years and years, and not not only you write it, but somebody else writes it. Krista Faust gets to write it, and everybody else on the AWA roster eventually maybe gets to write a story on this. Is that kind of how you guys all envision it?
Well, that's how I envision it. I don't know. We don't have big meetings about this stuff, especially when you're kind of writing and drawing it yourself. There's no real that's my intention. That's my intention with the characters, to create that sort of a thing that could have, and hey, maybe it doesn't. Maybe there's only 5 issues ever released, and that's it. I don't know. It's beyond, but that's beyond my control. It's just what I put out into the world to get back E-Ratic was like that kind of a thing, that kind of energy. And it was so fun to design a character with a tail, like and ears. Like I thought that was so awesome that came back to me, like here, and then a rat, and then the rat has a tail and rat has ears, and I haven't seen a good tailed superhero since Nightcrawler. Like
I was just gonna say, yeah.
Like I love that stuff. That stuff really psychs me up. Like it really gets me going to be like, what haven't I seen before? Like I'm constantly looking for that kind of energy.
That's awesome. I mean, so clearly you're super passionate about the project. What was it like working with Axel and AWA? I mean, I've talked to Axel. I've had him on the show. He's a super high energy guy. What was it like working with the AWA team?
Well, I've worked with Axel forever. So when I first started at Marvel, I believe is about the time he first started at Marvel. And some of not my very first work, but almost my very first work was doing Spider-Man covers for Axel. So we've had just a very long history together. And I think we have a lot of shared sensibilities. So it's always such a pleasure. Like, the reason I'm doing something with AWA is to work with Axel. So that kind of sums it up. Like we get along, and I do things a little wonky. Like I said, I like to zig when the world is zagging, and he supports that inclination. So it's a good relationship.
That's awesome. We do have one question from Twitch. It's asking, do you ever look back and see how much the process of making comics has changed? Everything from storyboarding to inking and printing. Does it feel like it's still magical to you?
Could I ask, if whoever's asking on Twitch, can I ask you to clarify what that means? What What you mean? Just the technical processes have changed, or like the way they're made, like in terms of groups or committees or individuals or companies, or what is? Then I can answer.
I think he's talking about the technical side of it.
So the technical side of it is. So I'm going to start answering this, and if whoever's asking a question wants to clarify while I'm talking, please go ahead. Technically, comic books have changed quite a bit in terms of printing processes. When I was growing up, it was newspaper. Yeah. That sucks up a lot of ink. There wasn't a lot of color selection, and so those, as an artist, so how that's changed is that the printing technology can reproduce art in a way never before. So that burdens the artist with a lot more opportunities that they can do, but you can easily get lost in those opportunities. And the hardest part about drawing comics is just the pace. And a lot of great artists can't do it because just how much art you have to make every day is so high. In the olden days, it was almost easier because that newsprint paper would suck up a lot of ink, so you inherently couldn't add a lot of details. The colors, you could only use colors in a very limited way. The texture of that newspaper actually hid a lot of the shortcomings of the art. It was a much more rapid way to do it. And now the paper's so shiny and so slick, and the line width you can generate is so fine. You can really just do high extreme printing. So there's the lure as a comic book artist is to do that, is to just work in a high fidelity way and spend everything you've got in a panel, and then go to the next panel, spend everything you got in a panel. But like I said earlier, as a comic book artist, your budget is time, not money, and you just cannot afford to do that if you want to be a working comic book artist. So that's the biggest challenge. But it's also cool because there's many ways you can subvert it. Like if you want to zig while the world is zagging, well, maybe you develop a very open, simple style that really feels unique in a world of over rendering. Maybe you color no shadows, single tone, like old school animation, or like there's a bunch of different ways you can do to. But every opportunity has a cost and a reward, and you got to choose what you want to, how you want to approach it.
That's awesome. I mean, do you have a podcast? Are you on the internet? Like, I feel like you're a natural for talking in front of the camera. So I just have to ask if you're anywhere else on the internet doing these.
I dabble a little bit on the YouTube. I still like I like to do this stuff so much, but it's just I have a hard time. If it's a straight up interview, that's the reason to do it, right? I can talk and just be mean, answer questions, but I still don't know how to interact with like the you and the tube in a way that won't destroy my career and ruin the reading experience for my readers, and all the other stuff that comes along with it. Like I like to talk about stuff, but in many ways, I find like some of that stuff, the energy for what I want to say should be contained in the comic book itself, in a kind of a hidden way, like not in a way that's like I'm deliberately trying to do a thing, but like when you tell a story, you're exploring an idea. And maybe if you explore that idea too much in another medium, you lose less of a reason.
Okay.
Like look at Orson Welles. His movies are full of stuff. And they're not stuff like you have to discover. There's no like, this is the secret he was trying to tell you. It's just like, layers of like, stuff. And it makes his films rich. So I'm trying to I'm interested in the YouTube stuff. And I've dabbled, and I have some plans to maybe expand it a little bit, but I'm trying to figure out like what's the balance between like,
you're a busy guy. We know. But I think you'd be great at it. So I do want to, first of all, so I launched here at the store for December the 24 days of indie comics. Every day I'm going to showcase an indie comic on our store. If they come and buy it, they get a free stamp, which is a $10 thing. So officially announced for the second day of indie comics, E-Ratic will be my. So this is breaking news. Usually the announcement gets made in the morning. So that'll be the second day of indie comics. And for anybody that's picking this up tomorrow when it hits shelves, what would you say to somebody that's picking this up for the first time?
Buy both copies.
Yeah, it's going to be my pick of the week. We ordered heavily on it. We love AWA. We love Axel. So yeah, if you guys get a chance to pick up this book, we here at the Collective have our first issue guarantee with it, which we don't think any of you will be bringing it back, but you can. So here you go, and thank you so much, Kari.
Oh, can I just leave it with one quick word for the book? The challenge was to take a situation where with a pandemic created superhero world, but I was not interested in a dramatic, mopey book. I was interested in a fun, poppy, archetypal hero world. So do not be afraid. This will be a break from the crazy of the world. This will be a fun, exciting, poppy experience. But I think it's, again, it's like straight up fun superhero storytelling. I think with a bit of a twist and a wink to the current times.
Yeah, no, and it has likable characters, or hateable characters and likable characters. You know what I'm saying? You have to have. But yeah, thank you so much for your time again. The book is E-Ratic #1. It will be on shelves tomorrow, Wednesday, New Comic Book Day. And thank you so much, Kari, for your time, man. You've been an awesome guest, and this has been great. So thank you so much. We'll have to have you back on the show next for your next project.
Please do.
You take it easy. Have a good one.
All right. Thank you very much.
So that was Kari Andrews, the writer and artist on E-Ratic, brand new book from AWA. Then a double feature, as always. We've been doing double features on this show for a while. So I'm bringing in a local here to us, Mr. David Summey from Lakeland, which isn't too far from us here in Altamont. How you doing, David?
Hey, pretty good. Actually, I'm from Plant City, which is a little further towards Tampa.
Okay, Plant City. So you're further from us? All right.
Yeah, not much further, about 20 minutes further. But it's a strawberry festival. I don't know if anybody knows the strawberry festival.
I have heard of that. So that's you. All right. So I know where I'm getting my strawberries from next time.
Yes.
So, David, we've been meaning to get you on the show for a while now. You have a book that is currently on our shelves, and then you're also working on a few things because you have issue 2 in the pipeline too.
Yes.
The main book we're going to talk about today is Return to Sender, which in a second, when Steven has a chance, he's going to bring me a copy. He's running the store right now. But,
awesome.
Talk to me a little bit about Return to Sender. I like to tell people it's a little bit of a Western. So tell us about it.
Well, you're right. It's a little bit of Western, a little bit of horror, a little bit of detective, and it's just all wrapped up in one. It's if you like Clint Eastwood, but you also like sci-fi movies, fantasy, it fits right in there. It's a tough guy. He knows what he's doing. He's a post officer that's in the 1800s, and he goes around delivering his mail, and that's like his secret identity cover. He goes around and delivers mail, but really what he does is goes around and stops all the myths, monsters, fairy tales. All you can think of is all true, but it's all from the United States, and that's why it was so hard to populate and grow as a country, because there was rumors that whole towns would disappear. People will go out and start a farm, and then next thing you know, they're gone. And then they chalk it up to wolves or chalk it up to bears. Yeah. But what this is actually, me and my daughter came up with this. And what it is actually, they're all the myths, monsters, fairy tales, everything you think of is all true. But we're alternate a little bit, and it's all coming from our idea. The first one's about our version of a werewolf. It's called Moon Demon. So I'll go ahead and spoil it since you got it. But it's a moon demon, and it's not normal. It's more of spirit, supernatural than it is physical. But it's a very cool story. And in the first story, how I explain it is like a 2-hour movie. You take a 2-hour movie, the first 10 minutes, that's his story. It shows you the character, shows you he knows what he's doing. But we're going to take that guy that knows what he's doing and put him in unusual situations and see how he handles it.
It's that world building. And actually, we just had Kari Andrews on here, who is a Renaissance man, does art and write. You wrote, you had somebody help you out, but you wrote and drew this issue.
Yes.
What was that like for you? I mean, that can't be easy.
Wow. It was a whirlwind. I've been drawing all my life, doing all kinds of things, and And I literally, my daughter thought of me. My daughter sat down and I drew a picture. She said, "Hey, that reminds me. This is what I'm thinking." And then all of a sudden, this idea popped up, and I wanted to show her that it could be done. So I set on the course of doing it. It took about maybe 2 months to get started, about 3 or 4 months to get the idea grounded, and then I started laying the pages out, and we did it like the old Marvel way. I drew it all out, and then I had two other friends that helped me with. They wrote their own scripts, and I kind of wanted it a certain way, so I took part of their script and then I rewrote it to fit the narrative that I wanted.
Okay.
And voila! It for some reason people love it.
Well, and what's awesome is, and again, it's like small world. Everything comes full circle. So one of the guys that helped you with that book, it was Travis Gibb, and he also has a backup story.
Yes.
And then one of the guys that has done a cover for you is Luke Stone, who these guys from Voodoo Nation. So how did you get linked up with Travis Gibb?
I said help, and he goes, "I'll help." I put it on Facebook. I have a friend of mine who did one of the covers. Also, it's Javier Lugo, and I was talking. I said, "Hey, do you know anybody who knows anything about Kickstarters? I think I'm ready. I don't, I'm not sure where I should go with this." And he goes, "Well, let's see." And he put it right out there. And then Travis says, "I'll help you. I like what I see." So we sat down, talked. He liked what he saw, and he helped me out. And we're not only doing that, but we're working on another project, a whole comic book that I'm going to do for him. It's a really cool idea, really cool comic book. It'll start probably in January when I start doing the pages. Maybe in December, at the end of December, I'm going to try to start doing some pages. So it's a 2-part story in one book as of right now. So I got the first script is 10 pages, or yes, 10 pages. And he said he's got another 10-page script. So it's really unique. I'll let him tell that when we get going.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get you guys both on the show. I mean, we love to support the locals. I mean, I know you're what is it, about an hour and a half, hour 45 or something?
Not even that. It was about maybe an hour. Yeah. I hit about an hour there.
So we love to support you guys, but talk to me a little bit about. So first of all, and David Galliano, who I think you had a signing with as well. He worked on a Western as well, and I had this conversation with him. Not a lot of Westerns. Forget about in any type of media, but especially in comic books, not a lot of Westerns right now. So what was your kind of motivation and your inspiration for doing a Western?
I never thought. I'm a comic book artist. I love drawing Batman, Wolverine, Superman, everybody. I never thought I would do a Western as a comic book. I've always thought I wanted to do a comic book, but I never thought I'd do a Western. But it just felt right. I mean, everything just fell into place. I used to. I mean, I'm an old hero fan. So even in old Westerns with Clint Eastwood and all that, I always loved like a fistful of dollars. Good, bad, and the ugly. All those kind of felt like they were superhero movies, but in a Western form. They had superpowers by being real fast with their hands.
Yep.
And having knowledge that other people don't have. So it always felt like a superhero movie to me when I watched these old Westerns. And so I took it one step further and not only made a superhero. And of course, you'll be surprised what he is. He's, spoilers. He's not who you think he is.
Yeah.
So the next issue, you're going to find out more about him and why is he so good. We'll put it that way. It's a unbelievable story. And it just caught me and hooked me. And it took about 8 months from start to finish. There's a lot of family things happened. I met my dad for the first time through Ancestry.com.
Wow.
I know. I was 48 and met my dad for the first time, and he didn't know. I didn't know. So that slowed everything down. Yeah. And he's the one that kind of helped me push myself. He comes up and he goes, son, if you want to do this, you got to get it done, right? Okay, and so I jumped right on it, got it done because my dad said so.
Hey, that's sometimes the little kick it's not even a kick in the butt, just an encouragement sometimes, because it is true. If we leave things to, and I can imagine it's so especially true for the indie creators. if you leave nobody's going to finish it for you. If you're working on a project and you got it almost done, you can't just take time off because it's not going to get done.
Right, exactly. And plus I work full time. So it was a challenge to find the time for the family, for work, and for this book, which, my wife has come to, thank God for my wife and how she is so supportive. Uh, you know, she looks at it now as a second job.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and she lets me have my time. She'll just say, "Okay, you can draw today." Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yeah, it's a blessing because I just I fell into it. With everybody involved, it was a blessing. It happened, and it seems so easy now, but it
Mm-hmm.
was so difficult. And the hardest part is doing it
Yeah.
and getting it done. That's the hardest part because you question yourself. You're constantly, is this good? Is that good? And luckily, I have a supportive team that goes, "Hey, Dave, that's good. Keep going." uh, so,
Well,
and oh, go ahead.
and talk to me, Dave, about so like you said, you always knew you wanted to do a comic. 8 months ago, you have this idea. You reach out to a guy like Travis. All right, now the comic's been successfully kickstarted. You've got fans now all over the country. You've done a couple
All over
signings
the world. All
all
over
over
the
the
world.
world. You've done a
Yeah.
couple signings. You've got issue 2 and other things that you're working on.
Yep.
I know 2020 has been a crappy year because of everything, but what's it been like, at least in the comic world for you? I mean, you've had a heck of a year.
An eye opener.
Yeah.
It's. I'm blessed that the job I have. I cursed and blessed, I guess you say, I mean, but because I can't say curse, but I'm blessed that the job I have is one of the jobs that kept going.
Mhm.
And my wife is in the medical field, and so we know how dangerous COVID is. Luckily, our family gets tested constantly because of my wife being in the field. I think she gets tested every 2 or 3 days, so it's pretty cool. So we kind of keep our health in check. We're both pretty healthy. Our family's pretty healthy, thank God. And so, but that being said, push that aside, it's been a whirlwind. I mean, it just went from, it seemed like it took forever, but once I got it made, it went boom, 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 to a point to where I got contacted by 2 producers, and I'm doing a comic book from a movie now.
Yeah.
It's a B-rated movie. It's not. It's pretty well known locally. It's actually spread out now throughout the country. It's one of the highest selling for their company. And now I'm making. It's called Naked Cannibal Campers. It kind of, one of the crazy names. And it is going from small to now it's big. I mean, I got people wanting to be involved. I heard you wrote something for a book. I
Yep.
was actually going to talk to you, maybe doing something in my book.
Oh.
I like the idea of bringing other people in, like me. I just started, but yet I got this big opportunity, and I want to, everybody that's helped me, I want to help them now, and I know that's something that seems like you want to do, and I have all the opportunity now to do it. We have a 5-year contract with them.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we have full creative control. So we're taking this B-rated movie and turning it into an unlimited budget comic book. So
Yeah.
it went from small special effects. There are 3 witches in the woods that cannibalize the campers, and it's like a horror sci-fi movie.
Mhm.
We're taking it from minimal magic and all that to massive magic to underground caverns to the world's the limit. What we're
The
taking.
big sets and the things that they can't afford, the big sets, the special effects, extra crew or extras, extras, it takes you time to draw it, but it's cheaper than hiring 20 extras.
Exactly. So we're almost ready. It starts like the Kickstarter is going to start in January 2nd, which is I think a Sunday, and we're going to kick it off. We got 14 different covers so far.
Ooh.
We got maybe 10 artists and colorists and artists involved with the covers. We have more to come. You know, I already have a backup story already written by Amanda. I'll have to find her name. I apologize, but she's doing 2 covers, and we got a naughty and nice cover.
Yeah.
Because it's a adult book, but it's not. It's story driven. I'm not.
Yeah, it's not erotica, but
Right. No.
yeah.
No, it's got to fit into the story and why.
Yeah.
They're beautiful women. And when they eat people, it keeps them young. And plus, there's a secret. They're trying to. I can't tell you this is something that's not in the movie, but they're trying to do something to bring something back. I'll just put it that way.
Witches do, right?
It goes into their lore. I mean, it's just unbelievable what we got planned. I got Vince Atkins, which he worked for Marvel and DC as a shadow inker, and I think you met him before. And he's helping me write the script. More or less, he writes it, and I screw it up by drawing other things. But so yeah, why not? But if it's cool, I want to put it in there, and so there's. Actually, I got in talks with another director for another movie, but that'll be coming. That's a hot tip right now, but that'll be coming later. I'm not going to bring that up till later. But yeah, we're focused on this big time. Then we got a noir,
and then you've got Return to Sender 2, right, in the pipeline.
Well, yeah, we got a noir, Return to Sender, the black and white version. David. I'm bad with names. What's his last name?
Is that the one that got
is writing the 10-page script.
Yeah.
Vince Atkins is drawing the 10 pages,
wow.
and it's going to be added to the noir, and then that's going to hit before number 2 because we want to keep everybody excited.
Nice.
Then we'll have unique covers. I'm talking. We're going to go for foiled covers and some really cool covers. But that's involved right now. We got the script. Vince has got his sketch in there, all the characters out, making sure we already got pretty much approved with David. He likes what we have for him. We were going to be rushing all this, but we decided to take our time and do everything right. Again, we're still new, but we got a lot going on. We're busy.
You guys will sound like you're going to have a busy 2021.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
So the book is Return to Sender. I have to ask, just because I look at it sometimes, and did you read Jonah Hex as a kid? Was there a little bit of Jonah Hex influence?
No, I really never read a single Jonah Hex.
Okay.
I basically that is I've seen cartoons with Jonah Hex on the Super Friends. I know about Jonah Hex. I watched the movie. But
I'm sorry that you watched the movie.
yeah. But I never read a single Jonah Hex book. Matter of fact, I don't have any in my collection. I have a bunch of collections because I never really liked Western comic books, honestly. Because I didn't think it connected to me. Maybe I should have read Jonah Hex now that you're mentioning it. Matter of fact, I might be doing. I may come and get some old.
We'll get them together for you.
yeah, I know you got a whole bunch up there waiting for me, bro. But it's just something I felt that I liked. I mean, I love the supernatural feel. I love the old '80s, like Stallone. All the old. You got Conan. You got was it Cobra? You got all those, not just all the old '80s tough guys.
Action adventures of the '90s,
Yeah, '90s and '80s. Yeah, you're right. And I like that old genre where men were men. And that's where I try to pull from this. And again, we're not just gonna show that he's a man. We're going to open him up and introduce him to the world and and show him that being a man's okay, but sometimes you got to be friendly and kind and all that. But it's going to be hard for him.
Yeah. Well, and what I thought was genius was making him a postal service. What a better, not just cover, like you said, it's kind of a secret identity, but what a better way to get across the country or across places, than to be the postal worker who's taking the stuff there.
Yeah, and and some of the stuff he might be planned, and some of the stuff that's just fallen up. Don't go into those woods are haunted. So okay, well let me go do my other job.
Yeah.
So he goes to the woods to take care of it. Yeah, and also there's a government secret agency involved that's kind of somewhat guiding him because the United States, a secret group of the United States, realized that they're not going to be able to grow and become the country they want to become because of all this, and so that's where they're sending them out. And of course, he'll learn that not every creature's bad, not every creature's good. So he's got to learn. He knows a lot, but he's got to learn a lot too.
Yeah.
So that's any story. So I'm excited to bring that to. We got 6 issues at first. Okay. We're planning on we can go further because it's the world's and it's open.
Yeah.
So we can go anywhere in the country. He's going to work he starts in North Carolina and he's working his way west. So and so we're trying to bring that 6 issues, and it's got to build up. I'll tell you, and the whole 6 issues is about the old Universal monsters.
Oh, awesome!
Our version of the Universal monster.
Yeah. But it is going to kind of be like each issue will feature a different monster that he's going to kind of.
And then it's all going to come to a boil at the end. Yes. So it's got a massive story. It's involving, like I said, the government so it's kind of when I say detective, he's like a detective too. He one of his abilities you'll learn as it goes on is that he's got a photographic memory and full recall. Okay. So that's a curse and a blessing because he's seen a lot of bad things.
Yeah.
So can you imagine the worst thing you ever seen and remember it like it was yesterday?
Yeah.
So so he constantly has that on his mind too. But so that makes him a little special. Again, I'm not going to get into any other things, but he's pretty impressive knowledge of the foes that he's going to take on. And it's in depth on how he handles it, how it makes him feel. The first story is all about this. It's narrated, and the whole first six books are going to be somewhat narrated to where he walks in a room and you're going to see a little bit about him. How does it make him feel? What makes him happy? What makes him sad? Like he likes bars. He drinks. He's a drinker. Who wasn't at the time? And I think one of the funniest things about the bar, he goes, this bar smells of piss and like I cuss, right? Piss and shit.
Yeah.
And he goes, but most bars do smell like that anyways. But this one smells different. It has death. So it's kind of an insight to see what he's thinking. So it's kind of cool that way, I think.
That's awesome. So the book is Return to Sender. We have copies of number 1 in the store. We actually have A covers. We have covers. The A covers were done by you. We have variant covers done by Javier Lugo and Travis Luke Stone. The Luke Stone ones are like quadruple signed. They're signed by you, Vince. They're signed by Luke. They're signed by Travis Gibb, who did a backup story. And then we have some cool little what would I call them? Like the wanted poster. You did Batman, Captain America. We sold a couple of, but we still have a Batman and a Captain America in the store. I know for sure.
I'm all sold out. Those are the last ones we have. Yep. I mean, those went out like wildfire. And
they're awesome. They're awesome little, not full sketch, but like the remark sketch, and it's awesome.
Right into the cover. Yes, it's pretty amazing. And then do you have any blanks? I have blanks. So
I have 2 blanks left. Because I think I grabbed 3 from you. One of them, I actually had Luke Stone.
I saw that. Yes.
The postmaster with the wolf behind him.
Yeah, it looks awesome. Man.
It's awesome. His pencils are amazing. I love Luke's pencils.
His pencils, I think, are better than his inks. I mean, it's amazing. His pencil work. Yeah, I love his pencil work.
We're holding on to them because we're hoping to get you back for a signing. So we have those 2 blanks, so you can pop out some commissions for people.
Oh, I definitely will.
But yeah, so David, thank you so much for giving us your time today. Again, the book is Return to Sender. I don't want to, I'm already giving so much away on our show today, but I have a feeling Return to Sender will be on our 24 Days of Indie Comics. So be on the lookout for that.
Awesome. Thank you. And if anybody want to get to Nicky Campbell, you can join the group. the Facebook group, Facebook page. I'm popping in pages here and there. We're going to start. I'm just now getting all the covers colored and coming back, so we're going to start showing those. So everybody will be on the lookout. It's going to be pretty big, and we're giving out on the pledges. We got Naked Cannibal Campers dominoes, because when you go camping, you got to have a game, and then we're going to have a Naked Cannibal Campers tent that it's going to be on one of the pledges. It might be a little bloody, but you're going to get a tent with the logo. So
the Kickstarter Indiegogo going live?
It's going live on January 2nd.
Okay, perfect.
January 2nd. So we'll start around the 12th. I think we're going to have the pre-launch up. So just keep up and look for it.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, David. Again, the book Return to Sender, we have it here, part of our collective initiative. And remember, support indie comics. Thank you so much, David. You have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
So thank you again for joining me on our special 20th episode of the Collective Spotlight. I want to thank my guest, Kari Andrews, who is the writer and artist of AWA's brand new book, E-Ratic, which will be the second day of indie comics here at the Collective. I also want to thank David Summey, who is the writer, artist, the everything of Return to Sender, more or less. But thank you so much, David, for being on here. Again, this is the 20th episode of Collective Spotlight. We do this every Tuesday with indie creators. We're starting to double book our shows, so keep on the lookout. Next week, I have the creative team behind Image Comics' Homesick Pilots, and then I have Elliot Rahal from Knock 'em Dead. Thank you so much. We will see you guys tomorrow on our $1 auction, and you guys have a really